Okay. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Story Hour, where we share real life stories of how human design has helped our guests know themselves on a deep transformative level. By knowing and trusting ourselves, we develop deeper, more honest relationships and unlock our true gifts. I'm Kathy Bashanko, and this week my guest is Stefano Lazzaro, the guest that didn't want to go live, I guess, unconsciously, right? We've been trying to do this in multiple formats where people could join us. And so we're recording this and then going to upload it afterwards because technology is fighting against us today. So Stefano is a 5-1 splenic projector, left angle cross of Clarion, and he's going to share all sorts of interesting parts of his story with us. And Stefano is a big part of my personal story. So just to give you a little reference, Stefano reached out to me when I had made a post about midway time-wise in my journey, but really when I was starting to first deep dive into what it means to be a projector. And he saw a post I did in a projector group and graciously reached out to me and gave me lots of information of it, what to do, and lots of guidance on his own privately. And I am forever grateful for all your splenic projector wisdom over the years. So without any more ado, I'd love for you to just tell us a little bit about your human design story, wherever you want to start with it.
Okay. I guess I'll start from, I think the year was around 2014. I was coming from a few years of what I thought was kind of regaining my freedom after a 10-year stint in London as a working guy, as a super working guy, quite successful as well. But I made some wrong choices, and I was running away from the aftermath of these choices. And I was really in a bit of a tight spot because although I was able to travel and film and create, I was not really inside. I was feeling like there's something missing. There's something I'm not getting. And also I had these pressures from these trial and errors that I had committed or that I had made in this 10-year stint. Namely, I lost a house that I had bought with somebody, and I lost some money. I financed the film that my intuition had told me not to do, but there was an invitation. I just didn't recognize the essence of it. I was still looking very much at the exterior world. So anyways, I was stuck, and I really asked the universe in a very determined, if that's the word, in a very focused way to help me. And at the time, I was halfway or well in a film project where I was filming a mature DJ in Ibiza who had a very interesting life, and it was the story of kind of a renegade, a bit a story of a loser, of a beautiful loser, just like me. So I went back to the island in the summer of 2015 to try and finish this film. And while I was there, I realized I hadn't filmed him for maybe a year, and things had changed. It shifted in his life. There was a lot of kind of depression going on, and things had gotten serious, and we had become friends in all of this time, and around the 5 years that I was filming him. So I was again in a, like, should I film this? You know, it started to feel, I mean, my friendship with him, obviously, it got to the point where I started feeling for him, and therefore, as a subject matter, it was not really working, you know. Anyways, I was also amidst my own confusion, as I've just tried to explain, and I asked that we were all living in the subject's farmhouse in this beautiful magic place near San Carlos, the small village in the east side of the island, northeast side of the island. And I confided into this other person who was living there. It was much older. They're both much older than me, 20 years older. And I said, look, I'm really struggling. I don't know, something's happening. I can't even put my finger on it. And he just said, you should try this human design story. Human design, it really changed my life. And he gave me the contact of someone who then became later on my teacher. His name is Jean-Philippe Godfolk, a Dutch reflector, 6'2", like you. And I kind of just put it there. And because, I mean, although esoteric knowledge has always come to me, I've always been a bit shy or a bit timid or just a bit fearful, I guess, because of some things that have happened much earlier in my life, to delve into, the unknown or what's not kind of mainstream, let's say. So I left the island after a couple of weeks, and I started researching about human design. And the first thing I noticed was that this Robert Allen Krakauer, this Ra fella, was born on, we shared the same birthday and month, 9th of April. So that kind of went ding, a bit. And then he was also Canadian. And I've spent about 4 years of my life in Canada during my university years. So, and I looked into it. There was some videos on YouTube, and I kind of raised my curiosity, let's say. So I returned to the island in November, I think it was, or late October of 2015. And I got in touch with Jean-Philippe, and we did a reading. And I mean, I wouldn't say like it shocked me or that it told me things I didn't know, but it did actually put some kind of organization of how I worked or how my energy worked, and I was able basically to understand myself a bit better. And then while this was happening, I realized that the subject that I was filming was one of Ra's. I mean, he knew Ra very well. He hung out with him. And so were a lot of the people around this subject who I had got to know because of the film that I was making. And so it was, again, these synchronicities happening. And I was just kind of, okay, maybe this is, there's something here.
Right.
And I had decided, I mean, I got quite a lucrative gig at the time, remotely. I was translating or subtitling French films for a Los Angeles company. And so that I could stay on the island and pursue the film, try and finish this film, but also try and, find out more about this human design because of some of the things that Jean-Philippe had told me during the reading. And in the house at that point, the fellow who had initially suggested that I should look into this had left, and he was replaced by a much younger woman who was a hat maker. I forget that there's a specific term. A very talented.
A milliner?
Doesn't ring a bell, but could be. I mean, Anna von Kettel, who's not with us anymore. And she was an Aries like me. And we struck a very strong friendship. And she knew of Jean-Philippe, and she knew where he was staying. So one day I asked her, I said, hey, take me over to where this guy is living. And the guy, and Jean-Philippe was at the time living in a cave, just there's a set of caves, just in front of a very famous or infamous place in Ibiza called Esvedra. It's this rock that has some very strong magnetic pull. And it's also a place that historically was known for either UFO sightings, but most importantly, I think in the mid-80s or early 1800s, it was a place where this monk had gone to kind of on a hermitage various times and returning with visions and kind of channeling stories, which are not really well known. So kind of a magic place, let's put it this way. And if you've been there or in front of it, you do sense that there is something that's quite powerful. I've had mixed feelings in front of it. I've gone there many times, and sometimes it's felt like very feminine energy, very warm. Other times it feels very kind of doom and gloom place. So it's a very strong magnetic rock.
Do you feel like
I don't know I've never seen anything that suggests that. I just think that it's a place that carries a very strong magnetic field, very strong pull. And he was living right in front of it in this cave, and to me it was just crazy. I mean, it was great film subject, but I was really trying to figure, see where that rabbit hole was going. So basically I stayed with him and I asked him, okay, teach me this thing called human design. Oh, there's a preamble. There's something I haven't said, which was quite interesting, that happened on between, I think it was New Year's Day. It was the 1st of January by that time. It was 3:00 in the morning. I had gotten my reading, and I was kind of in between these two events that I've just said. And I was, we went to a party. We couldn't find this New Year's party. It took us like, we got there really late. We left around 10:30 and got there at 3 in the morning. 1 o'clock in the morning. So it was, a place that my film subject should have known, and he couldn't find it. Anyways, we get there really late. I had smoking some marijuana at the party, and I was also given a dab of MDMA, which is, I don't know what you call it, Molly, I think, or I don't know what's the street name in the States.
Yeah, Molly, I think.
Yeah, but it was in crystal form. It wasn't a pill, and it was very little. I mean, I just tried it. But by that time, kind of the party had died down and we all had to leave. So I kind of went back, we went back home, and I got into bed, and I don't know how to explain it, but it was like this mist materialized in front of me. I mean, while I was lying down, there was this cloud, or it was more like mist, just started emanating from the ether. And that, I was thinking, wow, this stuff is really good, But it came into me, it actually went right into me, and it felt very warm. It didn't feel like some kind of, usually when there's entities or ghosts or what I've now come to realize are just emotional imprints in the quantum field, you usually get very cold. And this was like a warm embrace. It was very feminine. It was like a woman's kind of energy. And I don't know if that had anything to do with what came later, but as soon as I started checking this human design, I kind of understood very quickly what it was all about. I mean, I'm not saying that I had some challenge. I mean, I had to learn it, but it was very easy to understand. And that's how I came to know human design. But then the story kind of changed because I went back to the film subject, and things started to get really weird between us. He was jealous of our friendship, of my friendship with Anna, and it kind of got, he was, I mean, he's a 3-5 emotional manifester. So
this is the DJ, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I
had to leave, basically. Sorry.
You did make a film about him, though, right? Isn't that one of your
I made there is a film I
something?
made where he's featured in it.
Yeah,
he's one of the main features, but it wasn't a whole film. It was a documentary. I was actually trying to make a film, well, a documentary film just exclusively on him. And it never happened because that drive broke.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if we get into my problem with the electromagnetic, that's why probably this hasn't happened today.
Yeah, I'm noticing a trend.
I think it's part of the 10-3. I think there's some literature, but I might be wrong. But I think it's part of my 10-3. The behavioral, the martyr.
Okay.
The behavioral aspect of the 10 in the martyr line. I think it has problems with gear or hardware or material, something like that. I think I read it. I might be wrong, but anyways, I've had it all my life. There's certain times where I just, for some weird reason, all the electricity, shuts down, or
well, someone
especially
did
when I'm really tense. I wasn't tense today, so
right. You were pretty chill. Someone did post that it was something to do with the moon, and Mars or something, and Mars opposing Mars and the moon, I think, are opposing Uranus or something, which is supposed to be some sort of difficulty. So I don't know. There's always,
it's a recurrent theme in my life where,
I
mean, I was electrocuted as a child.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I almost I remember being there for quite a while, but while I was in my own bedroom, I put my finger on one of these. We used to live in a place that had anyways, it's not important. I just got electrocuted.
But it is interesting because I have heard something about an experience between, or a connection between NDEs, near-death experiences, and psychic connection and abilities and that sort of thing. And so I'm just curious, if that might have something to do with, that whole connection with, when the veil is so thin, when you've almost crossed over, that when you come back, it brings in some sort of ability
to
connect with things. So yeah. So back to the whole human design thing. So you were learning it from this guy who lived in a cave in Ibiza, who was friends with Ra, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how friend. I mean, you might have to interview him to see how friendly he was.
Familiar with Ra. He was an acquaintance.
Oh yeah, he was a student. I mean,
student of Ra. Okay.
He got the knowledge directly from Ram, and he He's an amazing fellow, because if you meet him, everybody around everybody around me was telling, oh, no, Jean-Philippe, no, he's crazy. Lima, he's a crazy guy, blah, blah, blah. Everybody was talking dirt about him. And as soon, not so much during the reading, although, you know, because I was kind of interested in what he was saying, but when I went to meet him at his place, there was this recognition, which I've had a couple of times in my life, where I really, like, I know you, you know, we've, you know, so there was this recognition from another lifetime. And what he had to say, I mean, he's such a wise and heartful person that I just, you know, bonded with him, you know, straight away. So yeah, I went back to and after this event at the cave, I went back to the house, and I basically, to cut a long story short, I had to leave. I couldn't stay there anymore. And I asked some friends if they knew of a place that I could stay. And basically, I hit a jackpot, because they had this, they had just renovated an old farmhouse right in the middle of Ibiza that they were going to turn into a holiday place and retreat center. It's still there. They don't have it anymore, but it's called Casa Corazon. And they needed somebody to keep the fire going, because the fire was connected to the heating system. And so they offered me basically free rental, you know, free accommodation in this amazing 7-bedroom, salt water swimming pool, right in the middle of the most the richest land that you have in Ibiza in terms of soil. It's very rich, the soil right in the middle of the island. And as soon as I got to this place, I remember dreaming this place. So again, things started to get really magical. And it was during this period that basically I had enough privacy and the time to really, you know, dig my teeth into this system. So that's how it started. And then yeah.
So that was like 2015 by then, right? So
no, it was 2016. It was the winter.
Okay, at that point. Okay.
We had crossed over to 2016. Okay. And then I think it was in the spring of 2016, I was asked, because of my English skills, and mostly, but because I guess I given these people a good impression, they asked me if I could manage the place for them during the summer.
Oh, nice.
So I had kind of like an in to stay on the island, which is what I wanted. Ibiza is a very difficult place to live on for year round, because of, you know, it's just a seasonal place. So if, you know, it's very hard to make a living 12 months a year. Yeah. So I accepted, and I started following Jean-Philippe to night events across the islands, not every day, but, you know, a couple of times a week. And I started doing my own kind of mini readings, you know, very basic stuff, kind of energy type and authority, you know, profile, this sort of thing. And I liked it.
Yeah.
You know, I all of a sudden I realized that vocationally I was much more happy in trying to help people find themselves, because, I mean, although this has happened in my life as a recurrent theme, you know, it was always kind of not too deep, or part of me was afraid of it. And I mean, if you look at my design, I've got a reflector personality. So
yeah,
I mean, usually that says that it's going to take a long time to figure yourself out.
See, I've got
if somebody doesn't
body.
tell you.
I have the reflector
Yeah,
Bob
there you go. I mean, it's if
and
you
the
have a
personality.
reflector story going, I mean, it's
Yeah.
unless somebody explains it to you, then I mean, for years I was just, yeah, that looks good. Let's go there. You know, nice, and just getting carried sideways.
My personality is a self-projected projector. The only conscious channel I have is the 1/8. So I often find that I process like a self-projected projector. So, okay, so I want to just talk about, having this, you've had a very unusual life. And we all have, right? We've all had our, on the surface, everybody can look away, but most of us have a lot of different things but as a 5, finding out you were a projector and a 5th line, and finding all that out on a magical human design place like Ibiza, I'm wondering how that affected your ability to like really understand yourself. Did you feel like that gave you like profound insights, or did you already know those things about yourself?
As I said, I knew everything he told me. I even knew that I could only eat at night, or that I like to eat at night. I mean, I've always known these things. I mean, my intuition, there's a voice that speaks, and the problem is that I've got a completely open mind. It's you're in that game, you're in the mind game, whether you like it or not. If somebody doesn't explain to you, look, your mind's great for picking up things and then waiting to release them to others when you're asked to.
Yeah.
I think in general, anybody who is very open, regardless of which energy type, it's a difficult task because, you just don't have a lot that's consistent about you.
Yeah.
But having said that, it doesn't mean that it didn't, awake. It did give me a little dingy because basically I started to learn to relax because, and this is an advice for all projectors. There's very little you got to do is just start to relax and get out of that buzz.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it's different for you, I guess. I don't know because, you're if I remember, you're a triple split, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So
I'm triple.
So you have 3 motors.
You bridge my splits. So just so you know, we're single split. And I was just sitting here thinking, oh, isn't it interesting? Because you're in Rome. So it's already evening there. So it's getting dark and you're in direct light and I'm direct light and it's daytime and sunny here. So we're in our correct.
We're in the duality.
Right. In our duality. And then you bridge all my splits. And, but what's really, this is what I was thinking, kind of contemplating before we got on and started having all of our technical problems, was how comfortable I feel with you, because it's an interesting dynamic because you bridge all my splits, but you do not define any new centers for me. So I feel very much at ease because I feel like I know who I am in a way that feels recognized. It feels like it can flow. And then that made sense when I looked at that and I was like, yeah, well, there's not some new definition that is something I'm not used to. There's just a connection between the centers that I already know in a way that feels really good. But you and I have no electromagnetics and we have no companionship channels. We just have compromise and dominance. Yeah. So, that's interesting to think about. And one of the dominants is you have the 1057 and I just or not dominance, one, the compromise. I have the 57 and, you're splenic. I have a defined spleen, but that's not my authority. And I'm only in the last couple of years really coming to understand my intuition on any way, shape, or form, right? I haven't trusted it. I haven't really even had enough belief in it to look for it. And recently I'm becoming aware of that ability. But, when I'm with some, in your presence where you have that full channel, there is this little bit of like, splenic envy, intuition envy that comes up. Then it's interesting to see how that is in the chart as well, So
you're not alone. I mean, it's my spleen's always been talking to me, but I've only started really listening after I got my reading. So it's,
and that's one of the beautiful things about human design is it can kind of really just point us towards ourselves, right? But one of the things you and I talked about when we touched base before this is about how human design is kind of a doorway. It's not the only doorway. It's not the doorway. But it is a doorway, but it's not a destination, right? We're not like, once we like, there's more to do to find yourself.
Well, it depends on, sorry, interrupting you, but I
go
understood what you were asking. I think it depends. It depends on who you are. And, for me if I have to ask myself what it is that you want to do? And this question is obviously become much more important now that I have a better sense of the projection field, of what comes to me in general. And I'm now in a position where I work as a creative director, freelance creative director through Amor Films, but I'm also a counselor. And the counseling that I do involves a lot of people with quite advanced cancer or quite advanced mortal, what I like to call bioactivations, but situations where there's a life and death story, or people that suffer from depression, not knowing, things that can't really be fixed very quickly, especially with human design. You can tell them a good story about themselves, but then, and I'm still learning, I'm still investigating. I feel that I need much more knowledge or a stronger foundation in order to really be of help. So I've looked beyond human design. I've looked into, I started looking into new German medicine in my 30s. I'm now 50 years old. When I got really sick, 27 years old, I got really sick for over a couple of years. I had what felt like a thorn in my head, like a knife being put in my head. And it also had repercussions. And I figured out after about a year, because it lasted for a year and a half. And a year into and it was daily, this constant pain. What you call, I guess, a migraine, but it had different, I got exams done. I had to stop work. I had to come back to Italy. I was in London. I had to come back to Italy and kind of really go into timeout mode for a year and a half to try and figure out what was happening. And I found out what was happening, not definitely through normal, the conventional medicine story, because they just couldn't, understand why I had a stomach ulcer and then this. It just didn't make any sense to them. But I did figure it out through the 5 biological laws of new German medicine, Dr. Hammer.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it, but if anybody isn't, they can Google it. And
you should, because
it's fascinating. Yeah.
Well, you can understand the physiological, biological process of what we call disease, which is already the wrong word, really. So, so I'm, furthering the investigation, basically moving beyond human design. And that is not to say that I don't use human design, or I don't think it's,
right. Sure.
I think some of the language, we spoke about this, a few times. I think some of the Ra's language or Ra style, is a bit. It's not to my liking or not to my taste, but
Yeah, sometimes it gets a little.
It's dark.
It's dark.
It comes from a dark place.
Yeah,
that's it. And people can, I don't want to get into that because it's just going to sound like criticizing when it's not. It's just my own observation, based on my subjective preferences.
Sure. And yeah, and I definitely have found that the words we use matter, and we started to talk about that, and how if you're, in fact, you had some sort of experience about words. I don't know if you feel right. Wasn't there something?
Well, just recently, yeah, this summer I had very strong. Well, it was I don't know what's the word, but I took some mushrooms basically, and in Ibiza, and well, I took a chocolate that had psilocybin in it, or
Right.
I think it was that, because it kind of gave me an hallucination with sound. I mean, basically, but it wasn't a voice; it was my voice. You know, I didn't feel coming it from the outside; it felt coming from within.
Okay.
But it was all about how sound, and this is very well known. I don't think I discovered anything that's not out there. I mean, the experiments of I think it's Emoto, the Japanese guy who did the experiments with water, the memory of water.
Yeah.
It was very much along those lines, whereby, you know, whatever you think and the words that you use for yourself and for others have an effect, and it can be a healing effect and a detrimental effect. And I mean, to explain it now would take quite a bit, but that was the gist of it. So basically, you know, be careful what you say, be careful what you think, because it does happen.
Right. And it's funny because I have been very conscious of it, but I still find myself making jokes sometimes, and then catching myself going, no, I don't want to say that, because even as a joke, you know, words have power. You know, the two, and I know you know this, but I'm just saying it for saying it, is the two most powerful words in the English language are the words I am, because whatever you say afterwards, you're giving energy to the manifestation or creation or reinforcement of that. And so that's been really powerful for me. And that's part of why, as much as I do value some of the teachings in traditional human design that she doesn't bring into her stuff, I really love the language in the quantum human design stuff. And Karen Curry Parker is now Dr. Karen Curry Parker. She just got her doctorate, and she did her dissertation on the effects of our story and the way we talk about it on our immune system. So they had people tell a story. I hope I'm remembering this correctly, but the gist of it was she had people tell a story of what something that had happened to them that was a disempowering story. And then they measured some immune markers in the blood. I forget exactly what the science of it was, but there was something they could measure, and they got that number. And then they worked with those people, and they had them do some exercises where they rewrote the narrative of that, where they either learned a valuable lesson, or they even a fictitious version where they emerged as the victor in the story and did something where they changed the language. Then they measured that immune response again after they told this new story, and it was like 40% higher, this marker in their immune system. So, you know, we really, the way we talk about ourselves and about our life is super important in our overall health. And it's easy to not realize where we're still the victims in our own story. And I will all of a sudden one day just be like, oh yeah, I'm still not necessarily even telling it, but thinking about it from the story of, you know, I'm a victim of this sort of thing or that sort of thing. Whereas when you switch that, I think it is huge. So, but getting back to your story, it's really interesting to hear you talking about all of this from the place where it originated, right, in the whole island of Ibiza, which for people who only know of Ibiza from what, you know, having heard of it because of human design, I mean, Ibiza is a pretty hardcore party tourism island, right? I mean, that's mainly what a lot of people go there for this.
Yeah, but a lot of people go there to find themselves through,
Right.
strong, look, Ibiza, like every other place, I think I wrote about it somewhere, I forget where, but it's, you see both sides of the coin, okay? Yeah. Except that in Ibiza, it's very much amplified because it's a small island. In the winter, at least when I was living there, was around 110,000 people. I think the numbers have gone up quite a lot. But you see the duality, and you see the black and white. You see the hardcore partying, but you also see, I've met some of the nicest and less complex, contrived people, in Ibiza.
Yeah.
So it's you see both, but it's known for that, obviously, because that's the attraction. That's where the big money is. Also, Ibiza historically was the poorest of all the Balearic Islands. So you have to think that genetically, the people, the Ibizencos, the people from there, they only started seeing kind of money during the second wave of the hippie movement, in the 70s. So there is still a lot of greed in the blood, let's put it this way. But I've also met the other side, I've also met the heart. So it's I mean, for me, it's a place that I've always been attracted to. Initially because it was a party place, go there in the summer, spend 2 weeks going from one party to another, meeting girls, projector, feeding on the sacral energy,
Right.
But I can tell you that lasted very, that kind of fun lasted very little, because as soon as I started moving in the island, I felt like, wow, this place is wow, the nature, and I started getting much more interested in the natural aspect of it. And what moved me to go back was actually when we made the Binji in Ibiza documentary. It was all about, let's go and find out why creative people move there.
Yeah. Okay. And I will, in the notes on this, I'll put a link to your website, because I know you have those videos and some blog posts and stuff on that. And it's very interesting. And so, but now you're mostly you're in Rome full time now, right?
At the moment, I'm in Rome. I'm taking this time to investigate, to solidify my foundation, because I think, I already work with medical groups and obviously people who are much more skilled than I am. I'm getting into a bioresonance project, working with the doctor there, and I need to up my game. Basically, I'm gonna get a certification in Italy. You can only practice within a health, within the health sector, if you have either a doctor or a naturopath certification. So I'm getting that. I'm deepening my knowledge of the 5 biological laws. I'm still studying human design. I'm still, I'm always looking into, more depth, although I'm starting to realize, and I think this is, just coming into my Chiron, that less is more, and meaning that the more I know, the less my intuition, I'm not saying actually works, but it's like, now I get to a point where somebody talks to me, and depending on the sound of their voice, I'm really able to sometimes even see what's happened to them.
Yeah.
If I close my eyes and I use my inner vision, something happens. I start, between the sound and the inner vision, I start to actually see the event that I've made them, that I've activated them biologically.
Now,
And
have you found that you are only seeing the events from, because I know you are a believer in past lives affecting us
yeah,
too. So do you feel that your visions are all of this life, or do you see like what people are bringing in from past lives, or?
no, I don't think I think it's more linked to the psychological of this life. In dreams, and I'm studying now, also another thing which I haven't mentioned, which is important, is that I've met somebody here. He's an 82-year-old emotional manifester, 1-4. His name is Umberto Di Grazia. He's very well known in Italy, but he also had some international success in his younger age, in his younger years. He dreamt of Ronald Reagan's assassination and he was in the military, and he got that message through much earlier, a couple of months before it actually happened. And they didn't believe him, and then it happened, and so they called him up and asked him to join a group of scientists or psychics that started doing work on, out of body experience, remote viewing, etc., etc. And I wouldn't say I'm studying under him, but because 1-4-5-1 is a difficult, and also manifestor projector is a difficult, relationship. I mean, it doesn't feel like organic. It feels like, there's times when I'm feeling his emotion and it doesn't feel right, and there's this very powerful energy. And obviously I'm not going to tell him anything about him being a manifestor, because he's gone beyond that. I mean, I think. But he's making me understand the power of dreams, how to control dreams, how to control myself in the dream, and also how to use visualization to heal, to go beyond the word, and to actually trick the mind by basically drawing hearts and flowers everywhere. But don't call them hearts and flowers, because the moment you do, the mind kind of forgets the frequency of love. And I mean, we could be here for hours trying to explain what he's teaching, but it's kind of, I'm absorbing it most of the times. And there's a lot of physicality in the work, there's a lot of physical exercises. It's not just logical kind of studying, it's much more involved. And basically what I hope to do is at some point have this bag of tricks, this toolbox that's, very well assorted and powerful, in order to, well, I'm going to use the words of Jean-Philippe, in order for those who come to me, that I can tell them about themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things I have really always felt from you, is this real willingness to tell me about myself in a way that was very, even when you didn't know me at all, very like just a little bit, not too much, not overwhelming, and with great love, right? It always felt there was this like sense of support in there that just has always felt really beautiful. And I do
thank you. That's really nice of you.
I do really appreciate that, and how that has supported me on this whole journey. And I know there were times where I was deep in my head on trying to intellectualize the whole human design process, and I would like message you with these convoluted questions, and I could just tell, like, in hindsight.
I like that. I mean, I've got an open Ajna, and I'm also, it's my binary, so I love stimulation. I love, to keep the mind stimulated. So please feel free,
So, so I'm wondering, just before we wrap things up, because I know that we got started super late and you have people and waiting for you. So I want to thank you for your patience, but I'm wondering if there's anything that you feel that you would like to say to whoever needs to hear it, whether it be me listening.
Nice. Okay. This is for everyone, but definitely for projectors or for open sacrals in general. I think that one of the, I wouldn't say quickest, but one of the easiest ways to get into your non-energy open sacrals, not manifestors, but it applies to everyone really, is to follow your PHS. Try and figure out the way that you take in food, the way that you take information, because that made a real difference for me. I mean, I'm an indirect being, so I'm on a perma Ramadan. You know, I only eat at night. And I'm on a passive chain, so obviously I don't need a lot of food, a lot of nutrients to, you know, get going. And that's helped me relax into my form. It's helped me relax into my openness. Especially for very open designs. I think that that's kind of, I wouldn't say the fastest, but the easiest way to get in touch with that part of you that knows who you are and what you're doing.
And what do you say to somebody who's, I'm thinking of someone in particular who is alternating.
Well,
that
the way
does not
that
resonate at all to them on as far as food goes. They are we can both see where alternating is very much, is it alternating or consecutive that they are? Whichever it is.
Well, they're on the same. It's one's. I think consecutive is left variable.
Then it's consecutive because they're
right.
quad left. This person is quad left. So, but they're, you know, as far as taking information, they're very much I do things completely devoted and then move to the next thing, and doesn't have to be finished, but they don't try to focus on multiple things. So that part feels very correct to them. But the food, the consecutive eating one thing at a time, does not at all resonate. And so I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
That's a difficult one because, you know, how much of that is mind? You know, how much of that is a mind story? Is their time of birth right? Because again, these nuances of human design are very much linked to your exact time of birth. There's different variables in that. My question would be, how long have you tried to eat consecutively? Meaning just eat.
Well, this person is a manifesting generator, and they are very in touch with their sacral and very intuitive, and their sacral just says no. So they've never experimented because their sacral is like, no, I'm not going to eat that way.
She should send me a snippet of her hair.
Yeah.
And we can put it in the machine with a picture of her. I mean, it'd be, if she could, you know, come to the clinic or to the place where we do this, we could figure out if that's the exact birth time.
You can figure out the exact birth time in your clinic.
Well, it looks like, yeah. I mean, we got enough data through DNA, though, through the hair. A friend of mine who's actually here can do it from biomagnetist technique of testing your ankles and the response of the quantum field to his questions about time. And he's been pretty precise, but it much depends on how he's doing that day.
Yeah.
You know, if he's that upset. I mean, machines don't have emotions, so they're dang, you know, they're precise. But we've noticed that with the body there, with the the person on the carpet and hooked up to the machine, the reading is very reliable. With pictures taken with phones, meaning digital pictures, that reliability is not there. But we did find reliability with the hair sample.
Huh. Okay.
Name, surname, hair sample,
Cool.
a picture, just you know, to have a visual reference.
Okay.
And
so I know you need to run. So if somebody wanted to connect with you on any of these things that we've talked about, is that something you're open to? And if so, how would they best reach out to you?
You
can put that
either through Facebook. I mean,
okay.
Although I don't know how long I'm gonna be on the socials, because I find them a bit. It's a bit of a distraction.
Yes, very much.
I might shut down for a bit, but definitely either through Facebook or through my email.
Okay, and what's your email? Are you comfortable giving that here?
Yeah, I'll contact at amorfilms.org.
Okay.
Contact at amorfilms.org.
Okay, awesome. And that goes directly to you.
Straight to me.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your patience on all of the problems we've had, and I very much have enjoyed this conversation. And
well, I hope, yeah, that it's really weird for a splenic. It's just, I don't know, did I say the right thing? I mean, if I start thinking about what I say, it's just going to go sideways. Right. So hopefully it was good. Yeah. It was good for people to get some gist.
I'm sure it was good for who it was supposed to be good for, and not good for
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because
it's just mental.
We can't change who we are for what somebody else right. It was very good for me. I very much enjoyed it, and hope that we can speak again soon. But absolutely. I want to wrap it up by saying every week we share stories of how my guests have come to understand themselves in a more loving and empowering way through the lens of human design. How you think and speak about yourself matters. Human design can show you the reframe of not only your own story, but the story you tell about your relationships. If you're ready to start living a better story, I'd love to help guide you. And to work with me as a mentor, you can set up a free discovery call at kathybashanko.com. It's just my name as it's written on the screen here. And or you can DM me through Facebook or Instagram. And I would see you next week. And hopefully next time we will be live. So let me end this recording.
Thank you. Love you all. Thank you, Kathy. Love you. Cheers.